Let's go ahead and get started since you guys are all here. And thank you for letting this be part of the launch of your 2023. We want this just to be really fun and just to reflect on 2022 Year of Pooh, to kind of get people amped up for 2023 Pooh and Me. I know all of this holds dear to all of your hearts, and so really wanted to kind of give another round of applause for you all being on the Friday Flush. So without further ado, I'm going to start the round table here just so you guys all know each other, and then the viewers can also get to know you a little bit more if they haven't watched your Flush, which is ridiculous because they're awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Shay, you want to start us out?
Well, good afternoon or good morning. My name is Shay Dunifin, and I am the education coordinator here at Pinellas County Utilities, South Cross Bayou Advanced Water Reclamation Facility. So I do public education and outreach. That is my job, working with the schools, working with the public. So a big piece of that is explaining where does that water go and what do we do with it? How do we recover resources? So everything I do is just about poo and trying to embrace it and make it cool, I guess. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I think it's cool. So yeah, it's nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Shay. That's awesome. Kim?
Hi, so I'm Kim Worsham. I'm in San Francisco. I own a little company called Flush, which works on educating the world about water and sanitation through fun, stimulating, creative stories. So that's my jam. So I do a lot of things all over the planet at the moment. But yeah, I'm here to spread the good word, I guess you could say.
That's right. And if you ever want to geek out on toilet history factoids, Kim's website is geek session big time.
Or just call me because I love talking about it. Yeah.
Kim. Okay, I'll go over to Austin.
Hello, Austin Alexander. This is just a great way to start the year. I lead sustainability and social impact for Xylem. We're a water wastewater technology company, but I started my career in poop pumping. So once you flush, you got to pump it somewhere. So that's where I started. And then now I lead our sustainability programs, our philanthropic efforts, and importantly to this, I guess, are how we help achieve SDG 6.
Great. Thanks, Austin. And Austin was one of our more recent flushes. It's getting high marks, Austin. Okay, I'm going to move over to Sean, the Poop Project.
Yeah, hi, everybody. So good to be here. My name is Sean Schaffner, and I'm here on Piscataway and Nacotchtank territory in the current nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And the Poop Project, or the People's Own Organic Power Project, creates art and education to stimulate creative conversation about sustainable sanitation for the person, planet, and global community. So we do theater, podcasts, film, a book, educational programs, etc. All about normalizing the do everyone does. So it's grateful to be a part of this and to see where the conversation goes.
Okay, we're going to move over to Rick.
Hi, everybody. Rick Niederstadt in Milwaukee, Capital Program Support Manager for the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, makers of, I think, the country's oldest beneficial biosolid known as Milorganite. So lots of stuff going on in that regard, and at our two relatively large water reclamation facilities. Happy to be here.
Lena, welcome. How about you go next?
To make it short, I wrote a book that was published in 2021. It's called The Other Dark Matter, The Science and Business of Turning Waste into Wealth and Health. It's by Chicago University Press. And in that book, I talk about a gazillion various beneficial uses for our other dark matter, which includes, converting it into fertilizer, biogas, and even a form of crude oil. I've had a lot of fun, and I am looking for yet another year of wisdom.
Great, thanks, Lena. Your book was sold out at WEF, RBC. They had the line, and it was just like, you guys are lucky if you got it. So great, it was great to have you out there when we had you at the Ohio conference. Okay, let's see, we got Chris.
Hi, Chris Clapp, Director of the Ocean Sewage Alliance. Good to see you all.
Great. Thanks, Chris, for joining me today. This is a great group. Sally.
Yeah, I'm at University of Washington, where I risk my academic credibility in support of biosolids.
Thanks, Sally. Awesome. Well, we're going to just jump into the question. We wanted to kind of break it off and just start out by saying, why is flusher engagement so needed? Why does it need to happen? And what is it that your feelings around that are? Anyone want to go take a stab at that one? Yeah, Kelsey, go for it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey. I own my own company called Point of Shift, and we design and implement circular sanitation systems, mostly for residential, but also eco-villages and some fun projects coming up. One of our big things, though, is making sanitation beautiful. And I think that's one of the areas where flusher engagement is really, really important, making the bathroom a place we want to be in, we want to celebrate, and then we want to understand where our waste is going. So connecting that gap for me is really, really important. And I think the more that, how you've termed it, flushers, which is probably my favorite term for 2022, if I had a favorite word, it'd be flushers, as people who don't know where their waste is going. But connecting flushers to their waste streams and how that's treated is just better for the planet. It's better for us. It's better for wastewater systems in general. So I think that answers, I hope that answers the question. But yeah.
Yes, it's very good. And thank you. Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and Kelsey and I do talk a lot about how do we get engagement. So just to be clear, we're like riffing right now. But I think one of the things that's also like so important about getting the flusher engagement is making toilets interesting. And it's needed because we need people to care. And right now people don't care. And part of it is because our stories suck. So I think one of the things we need to do is, as a whole, I'm not saying anyone on this call story suck. I'm saying as a whole, everyone who works in the world of water and toilets, the stories suck. And I think a lot of it is because the stories aren't surprising, but they're also not simple to understand. They tend to be very technical, and it's like there's so much cool stuff happening out there. And I think if we were to get people or these flushers engaged, we can actually start having these dialogues about improving it that goes beyond our technically professional expertise minds. And I think we need that to spur some of our ideas of making things work better, but also letting people get the chance to kind of think of their own solutions, and then we get to rely on that. That works in so many other sectors and in so many other challenges. We have people creating some surprising fun solutions, and then people, get to scale that in other places or replicate it. We don't get that so much because it's such a topic that people just don't know is worth talking about.
So well said, super well said. And that's, it seems like one of those things too is that just connecting people's role, that they really think that there is a phantom factory a lot of times that just is making this, and it has nothing to do with them. And it's just the viewpoint of going further up the pipe is just so fascinating. And how do we make that more real? Yeah, Lena, go for it.
Okay, so I always feel that poop is the most misunderstood matter in the universe, because, for centuries we viewed it as this ultimate, waste, and for the past couple of 100 years as the epitome of disease, that we completely lost, the understanding of it as, part of the circle of life, part of the circular ecology, and part of us. And for me, I tend to say I do poop PR. I'm like the poop face of the planet, because I want people to really change their perspective on their own dark matter and see it for what it is, and how an amazing raw material it is for so many different things. And I kind of I've seen that mindset shift a little bit in the past 2 years, with like poop emojis and the way teenagers talk about it, and suddenly it's kind of like a cool hot substance for a small subset of the population, usually like the really young ones, who sort of feel like they're breaking all the taboos and breaking taboos at school. And I'd like to like really broaden that concept and that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I love kind of a sneak peek, and if you paid attention to our socials, we're putting together a book that's compiling all the fecal facts, but also some of your statements in your interviews that were just golden nuggets that we have to put in there. And one of them, Lena, that I put in of you was your story about your grandpa and how you have to feed the earth like you feed people. It's so easy in your mind. It's just, how do you make that really happen in a safe way? Yeah, no, great. Sean, go for it.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm going to say something completely new, but just to expand and continue on this thread, that the narratives we have surrounding our relationship to excrement or the poop itself, they're either completely disengaged, like why is engagement important? Because we're otherwise not engaged at all, or they're negative. They only exist in a sort of negative, like I want this away, bacteriological context, or a sort of medical context, maybe. So I think it's expanding the realms of engagement with which we're willing to engage, whether that's about better design, whether that's about better health, whether that's about nutrient recycling. There are so many different directions that we can go once we're willing to sort of lift the lid and take ourselves down there. Even, I like the term flushers too, but I'd say even the question of whether we're flushing or not, who is flushing and in what contexts, or the ways that we're dealing with our not waste, with our byproduct, with our gift, you could say. Even to put in words like that shows us the way that the narrative has been structured in a certain way, and our opportunities to reinvigorate and explore different ways of looking as we move forward, which I think is in alignment with broader societal shifts we're trying to make around sustainability, around bringing in what has been marginalized before, and asking how those things actually may be central to moving forward.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Sean. And it's one of those conversations that that's a perfect answer. People are disengaged, right? That's why engagement is necessary, is that it's been such an easy thing to just kind of put on the back burner and say, or not even on the burner at all, not even on the stove, that people don't even talk about it. So yeah, no, that's very good. Shay? So
I guess part of the problem with this is the narrative. We've talked about how our stories might not be the best. But for someone like, myself, who works in public education, I think a lot of the problem stems from a very young age, because when we were first introduced to poo, we were probably very young. Our parents were teaching us, hey, you go to the bathroom, you have to wipe properly, you have to wash your hands, and then it's one and done. And it's not really a conversation that went any further than that. Well, some of us, I was the kid who would go get, hey, Mom, come here, look at my poo. Is this normal? What is this? Let me see yours. Like, I've heard stories like that before. But then we get to a certain age and it's like, we don't talk about this anymore. It's disgusting. It's associated with disease. It's associated with the ew, gross, it stinks. And then that's it. So I think it's really awesome that nowadays you see like poo emojis. You can see all of them behind me. Like it's a thing. But one of the things that I fear working with students and working with the next generation is that, yeah, poo emojis are cute and funny, ha ha ha, but are they taking this seriously? Is it really resonating where they're like, okay, there is a connection between me and the environment? Do they make that connection? And that's the part that scares me as an educator. It's all fun and games. We can say poo all day. I can throw poo emojis at them. It's fun. But, I think part of this engagement is really, are we making this like literally stick, so that they want to do something, or that they're not afraid to talk about this, or that it becomes somewhat normalized? I think the only, I've heard people say to me before, they don't want to talk about poo because animals do it. And I'm like, well, we're animals too. Like, haven't we figured this out? Like, stop acting like we're so evolved that we can't talk about the one thing that we all do. We all do it, right? So it's kind of ironic in a way. But yes, we do need more engagement. And that's why, for me, I focus a lot on the youth, like trying to drill it into their heads, but also trying to normalize it, where I'm like, there is a point where it's going too far and maybe we don't want to go there. You don't need to describe it unless you're at the doctor's office. I get it, but it shouldn't be something that we shy away from. And I don't know that we're at that point in our society, but I hope that we're going to get there, because to be sustainable, we have to have these conversations, right? Which is what we're doing. So.
Yeah, there is definitely a balance. That's a really good point, Shay, that that balance between humor and real statistics and things
it's
that are
real.
happening.
Yeah,
It's happening right
exactly.
now. There's people who don't flush, like you said, Sean. They don't have a flush. They have to put it somewhere else, or rely on it going to not a pipe to a system. So there are some very real issues around this. And how do you balance the humor with the reality to get people in the door and engaged? All right, we have Chris and then Rick.
Going back to something that Kim said about enabling or empowering flushers to come up with their own solutions and their own, more really empowering people to understand and then to demand more out of the people who do manage their poo. So because the systems aren't going to change unless the people ask for it to change. And right now we have a set of systems that are dictated to us by really inefficient standards. Mm-hmm. And it's failing us. And, it took us more than 2 decades for Congress to add "and water" into the we just wanted 2 words in an infrastructure bill because it was always roads, bridges, ports, tunnels. All we wanted them to do was "and water," right? It took us like 2.5 decades to get them to add that in there. But now we need people to demand of the people who can get that money to their communities better solutions so that we can connect the resources for them. And it's not beyond anyone's control, given the right resources and the demand for them to get there, to see something like a good biosolids program or in rural areas to create more urine collection networks. So, it's about engaging the flushers to a point that they want to demand better solutions than what's being dictated to them. And I think for me, those are the dots that I connect. And and how do you make the next generation do that in a productive way so they're not afraid to go poop and like my kids don't go poop in the elementary school because there's like a shame factor associated with with not pooping on the home bowl, right? So yeah, all of it's so connected.
Oh, thanks, Chris. And it is insightful. No, and I think you're kind of getting to the next question too, is how do we get out of our own way? But before we move on to that, Rick and then Kim.
Sure. Yeah, just briefly from the end of the pipe, really, the guys that are dealing with, what hits the treatment plant or whatever is the ultimate destination. I think, some of the engagement, we get a lot of really good poop coming down the pipe, right? And we make some really good stuff out of it. And I think some of the things that people take for granted is what they can and maybe what they shouldn't flush, right? Because there's implications to, things that can go down a toilet that really aren't good for the environment and really mess up equipment and processes downstream. So, I think that needs to be part of the equation too, to make sure people, it's about you and the environment, and it's about, doing your part in all kinds of different areas.
Yeah, Rick, I remember taking my kids, because this is what I do when I go on vacation. I take them to the nearest wastewater treatment plant because why not?
Doesn't everybody?
They're like, oh my gosh, where are we going now? But one of the things that really stood out to my oldest was the spar screens. She was like, wait a minute, there's so much hair. I thought that was fine to flush. And I'm like, no, because there was so much. I don't know if Port Townsend was just like a hairy neighborhood or if that, I don't know, but it was like a ton of hair. And so she, from that point on, was like, don't flush your hair, like that goes in the garbage, but people don't connect, right? It just looks like a receptacle. But you guys are there trying to make prime product out of it. Yeah. Thanks, Rick. Kim.
I am very passionate about getting the people involved, clearly, and I'm going to try to merge us to this next question, but I just get, especially when Shay was talking, I was like, oh yes. I feel like also there's this thing where like we have to generate curiosity. Like one of the main issues here is the the curiosity, not just in the humans that are at their houses, but like for the politicians to understand why why the policies have to be changed or improved. But also, I mean, like, and also kids are tremendously curious. They ask me lots of questions. I also do kids classes, and they ask me lots of questions where I'm like, you're a 5-year-old. How do you know that that's a thing? Right? They want to know these things, and we have to give them answers that they get, and giving them, feeding that curiosity, but also, to the point of getting out of the way. I think there's a lot of opportunity in that decentralized conversation that's starting to crop up in the US. And, I think that there's a lot of opportunity to get out of our own way by letting communities also tell us where they want to go. I mean, I was talking to a friend in a reservation in Northern California who didn't even know about circular sanitation and the opportunities there. And it was almost like I was Aladdin on a carpet ride with him, and he was Jasmine. And it was like a whole new world of all of these poo things. And every time I mentioned something else, he's like, whoa. And every time the whoa got higher pitched and louder because the excitement was there. And it was, him going, I really want to do this. I'm going to figure out how to try to get my community involved, and getting that curiosity from him, where he's going to be the person to make that change in the community, not me. I'm not going to be that person. I can just only help facilitate that. And I think that in that sense, I think sometimes we have this kind of burden where we think that it's all on us professionals working in this world to go make the change happen every day. And, the Ricks and Austins, you guys are doing it because you're working at the facilities that are doing a lot of this change. But I think a lot of us who are facilitating this conversation, we are not the ones who are going to do the change. We are the ones who are helping everyone else do it, so that we can kind of let them make a wave of shit that we can ride on in a very glorious and powerful way. I think I'm done with that thought now, but that was just the excitement coming out.
I did not think that Aladdin could be pulled into this conversation, but you just successfully did it. So that was awesome. And it's like you could teach him to fish, and maybe we could teach him to own their shit, right? This is like a big part of it, is that we can't just come out of the gates, espousing all the facts that we know in the techie terms. We have to really say, and what do you think about that? What do you see as the future for this, and how do you see your involvement? I think Chris, when PBS was on the tour with us at DC Water, they came in and it was very much that same way. Kim, they didn't really know what to think about it. And then at the end of it, they were just like, where do we get this? This is amazing. This is so cool. I had no idea that this was even a product in the world. And here we are. It's a whole new world. I'm going to put that as your tagline. Any other thoughts on how do we get out of our own way? It's, I think you guys have already pulled some strength, curiosity, but other things that would help us get out of our way. Where, and I include myself. I realize a lot of times I'm like, this is how it was and this is how it is. I've been involved in that too. The arrow off the map. I've made presentations with the arrow off the map. So how do we try to really engage people and get out of our way and make this more a normalized thing, like you were saying, Shay?
Are you okay if I just jump in then?
Jump in.
So it's been kind of maybe it's a radical idea, maybe it's not, I don't really care. I've always felt okay, I'm not going to go on a soapbox about how I'm not a fan of the public education system. I'm just going to say that and I'm done, right? I feel like in the schools, it should almost be a requirement. There are certain things you have to learn in school, right? You have to learn how to add, you have to learn how to multiply, baka, 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 right? Why can't we put something so simple in there as go to a water treatment plant, go to a wastewater treatment plant, and go to also solid waste, because you need to know where your trash goes too. Sorry, the whole trifecta. I think you have to get, I think when I was a kid, I went on that field trip and I remember, and I was laughing so hard when you were talking about, was it your daughter who saw all the hair? I always think about the corn, right? That was always my big wake up moment. The corn went in and the corn came out. And it's still the funniest thing to me. And when we give tours here and we show them the grit, as soon as they see the corn, every single time I have that moment where I'm like, yes, you got it, because I had that moment. But anyway, I just think it's something that maybe, maybe we need to work with our local school systems. Getting things built into school curricula is not an easy thing. It's not impossible, but, there's a lot of politics, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes it's easier just to have a local movement. So a lot of what we've done here in Pinellas County is we work with our school system. We have an interagency local agreement. So we have that relationship. So that way we can offer field trips and we can go to schools and we say, guess what? You have no reason not to come here. It's free. We pay for your bus. And the teacher's like, okay, why not? And then once they come here, back to Kim's point, which we must be like sisters, okay? Once they come here, that curiosity comes on where they're like, this is gross, but it's cool at the same time. And then those same teachers keep coming back every year. Then they go tell their friends and they're like, that's too weird. And next thing you know, you're just completely overwhelmed by schools. So I do think that it's kind of a grassroots effort, but I think if you're going for like the younger generation, I'm kind of focusing on them, is to really get in the schools and build that relationship and say, hey, whatever it takes to get them in. For us, we usually start with, we have careers. You don't have to go to college, you can, but we have careers right now. And usually that kind of starts this conversation. Or we could say, hey, you're doing water in your classroom. Let's talk about water here. Whatever that connection is, all of a sudden, it kind of creates this relationship where they're coming to you and you're working with them. And I think that's been great for us. So just my 2 cents or 5 cents or whatever that was.
No, that's great. And Shay, my first plant tour was the corn too. And all the kids were like, that's corn. I don't know why that's so fascinating, but it is fascinating, right?
So fascinating.
It's just a fact. And one of the things too, I remember about a lot of your interviews, Austin, I think Rick, others, that you heard about your field line of work that you're in right now in school. And so the fact of the matter is some of the leaders that are in this space right now also had that trajectory that you're talking about, Shay, is like introduce it to them now, like when they can actually like absorb it and don't have things block in their way, and say, by the way, you can get in to a job today, like through training, which is awesome. Yeah, that's one of the unique things. Sean, go for it.
Oh, wow. Well, this is just so delightful. It's so seldom to get in a room with lots of passionate poop people. And that's just always one of my favorite places to be. So I made myself a little list while we were been listening, but inspired by it, but also what we're hearing. So yes, new and surprising partners. The schools are a great place to go. But I think we can go there in surprising ways. Like schools can teach about these things, but also how are schools themselves treating their own restrooms? Project Clean, Tom Keating's work went really deep into that. And he used the wellness policies that are in every public school that accepts federal money to say, we talk about eating and exercise. What about elimination as a part of wellness? And what do we learn from the way our schools deal with their bathrooms, both as sites where people sort of show up as citizens? Are they taking care of them? Are they not? Are they well designed? Are they cleaned? Often they're really spaces of neglect that I think serve as a metaphor for the way the bathrooms are seen in the broader sphere. So similarly, like where are the master classes on bathroom design for restaurants or for urban designers who are taking on cities? Like there's a yes and mentality that I think toilets can join in, which is like, whatever you're doing, there is an aspect of like, okay, and then what? So they had a great meal, now what? Or, you brought all the things in, how are they leaving, right? Like that's a broader societal question about how we deal with quote unquote waste or regenerative cycles that I think can be asked a lot. And it's just easy to stay in our smaller silos. So I think it's useful to think like, who else is connected in ways that may be surprising? Another that came up a bit already is like proof of concept projects. Things like, I know there are some great projects in Europe around urine recycling and turning that urine into wheat that then brewed beer, and when people get to drink that beer, like they draw that connection. They have this ability to take what is an invisible, intangible connection to a system and make it really clear, like seeing that corn. So, I think some of those projects exist, but more funding to get them visible so we can really see them, get them potentially commercialized sometimes. And home projects as well in that same way. Like there was some home project I saw that was like, make your own urine struvite fertilizer, which is of course silly because like you can pee on your grass and have basically the same effect. You don't need a kit for that. But the idea that you can like pee on your grass right now is really innovative, in as much as it's also, for those of us in the know, like, yeah, square one. But that's the thing, is we don't know square one. And the last thought I had is goes back to the whole new world, and how like songs and entertainment factor. There's this saying in marketing of like, sell people what they want and then give them what they need. So nobody wants like an amazing bathroom experience because they don't think that they need that. They think whatever they have is good enough. But there's a lot they don't know yet. So sometimes you got to kind of hook them in. I think public art is a great way to get people visualizing things they might not have seen. But again, it's like, how do you get eyeballs in front of that who don't already know what you're talking about? And actually, to that point, I do think public space is a really under-investigated place that both can also generate like marketing, where press is coming to take a picture of this crazy thing that's happening in the middle of Times Square. But like, it's a lot of people flushing in the middle of Times Square. So it's interesting to think about.
Oh gosh, such good thoughts. Like I'm trying to like write and listen, but good thing we're recording this. So very good. Lena and then Rick.
Mine is maybe sort of a less constructive thought, but here I am in New York City with 13 or 14 wastewater treatment plants, right? None of which really super excited about bringing in school tours. When I was writing my book, it took me forever to get onto one of them to see the book, and it was all good PR. Okay, I was not investigating any misuses or abuses or whatever. There's so many kids in New York City who would so love that, to visit a wastewater treatment plant. But I don't know how to break through that. I don't know. Kim, I think you tried at some point. It wasn't super productive either, right?
Well, the plant itself actually has like a really great free educational tour thing, but you have to be a school. So like only schools can get those tours. So like the public, you can only go for at this particular plant in New York, you can only go in there's like 3 days in the year that they open to the public. So it depends on on the plant.
Yeah, it depends on the plant. So yeah, it's really difficult for some reason. I don't know if there is a better way in through the industry, in a sense that, people in this industry, I am sure know people who work at this plant who maybe can help us to establish this relationship. And I am totally willing to be part of that. I guess I would just need to find the people who would connect me, to the people at some of my 14 wastewater treatment plants.
No, thanks, Lena. And there's barriers, right? Those are very real barriers that we have to figure out a way to get around.
Yeah.
Or make something new, right? Maybe the barrier is just showing us like, by the way, that's not going to happen. What else could you do to make that happen? Yeah, thanks, Lena. Rick, and then Austin.
Yeah, I guess I would just say one size doesn't necessarily fit all, right? Different strokes for different folks. We try to reach out in whatever ways are humanly possible. We happen to have a billboard on one of our properties that we lease out, but our lease agreement allows us to put advertisements on there. It's a digital billboard, so we have 3 or 4 things that spin around on that billboard. Some of them are related to flushing, only flush the 3 Ps, that sort of thing. When we have wet weather, we're putting things up in that regard. Social media, lots of tours, quite frankly, and yeah, we do school tours, but Milwaukee has this thing called Doors Open Milwaukee, where one Saturday every fall, you get the opportunity to go to places that are normally off limits to the public. And our Jones Island Water Reclamation Facility is a tour on that list. It's been on the list, I think, ever since we've been doing Doors Open Milwaukee, and it's one of the more popular tours. We'll put, buses and buses of people through it on any given Saturday afternoon. We get tons of people here that volunteer for it. So, it's kind of a great public engagement thing. And I think a lot of people end up with their eyes being opened after a tour like that. They're like, oh my God, I didn't know this was all involved, or I didn't know this happened. So, and some people obviously do that tour, and other people, when they see doors open Milwaukee, they're going to go, I'm going to go to the Harley Museum or something, Harley Factory. Great. But with the various types of outreach that are out there, the more and more types that you do, the more chances you have of catching an eyeball or catching an ear and getting somebody interested. I think we see a lot of value from that.
Mm-hmm.
No, very, very true. Yeah. Thanks, Rick. Austin.
This has been so good, by the way. I'm just like, I didn't realize I hadn't even spoken yet because I'm just like so engaged. I am one of those people that did a wastewater treatment plant in school and then said, oh yeah, I'm doing this. So I'm like, I am all there for the power of that. I think too, we're kind of missing this group of, in my role now, I get to work with like kind of the climate space and then the wash space. And it was like shocking to me to come in and realize these two groups like don't talk, and that conversation together is happening. And that seems like a primary group of people that we should be engaging on wastewater, who is power. There's a little micro renewable energy center right there. And there's like these easy groups to start engaging that I think would care, but have, for whatever reason, are not. And I don't know why that is, but to me, it just seems like a no-brainer that that's a group that we can start engaging and maybe bring the social movements that the climate conversation has had into poop.
No, very, very true, Austin. And I know that you're involved in a lot of those conversations, and thank goodness, because I think it's a disconnect a lot of times. And how do we show, like you said, Sean, how do you show this is what they want, but then also, by the way, we need water, we need clean water, and we need good sanitation systems. Like, how do you make that all connect? Yeah, thanks for sharing, Austin. Let's see who we got next. I think it's Chris and then Kelsey.
One of the things, it wasn't until like, and it kind of goes to education. So back to New York State, as Lena and Sean referenced, but the Department of Education within New York State is exempt from Department of Health standards and codes, right? So a school district could do its own damn thing and doesn't have to be part of the local wastewater management district, right? They could just be their own little island, and they could install minimum standards and basically could install here on Long Island, could install cesspools if they wanted to. And so it's really remarkable how, like, even at the state structural level, that there's these impediments to being examples of innovation, right? So that's one big challenge, and Sean triggered that in my mind. But from my perspective, and from my educational and professional perspective to how I got here, the environmental field up until recently really still, like, there's still a diehard core set of the environmental movement that still views nature and people separate. And that's done us great harm over the last 50 years of environmental work. It's absolutely just set us back so far. And so that's one big barrier that we still need to break down, is getting the environmental movement to think of, people as part of the ecosystem. We are part of that system, and there's things we consume and there's things we excrete, and it's all part of the same system. Just like, and the education, that the elementary school education level, if the water cycle included what was withdrawn and put back in, and how it was withdrawn and put back in, and how can we put things back in the ground cleaner than they came out, right? To get people thinking a little bit more positively earlier about that integration would be so much more helpful. A couple of things that come to my mind.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Yes, rounds of applause. Yeah, very, very good points there. We got Kelsey and then Sally.
Yeah, and I don't want to repeat. I think there's been a lot of great things, but I just wanted to add on, Austin. I think as a sector, in terms of WASH, we've historically ignored other groups. I think waste is treated better with other waste, but yet biosolids does not talk to the composters, does not talk to different policy organizations, and we're all so fractured that we're actually hurting ourselves. So I've told this to Kim before, and I don't mean to bring up politics, but sometimes it feels like we are the Democratic Party in terms of like, we have all of the good intentions, but no clear messaging. And I think that's kind of what we pointed to today. And like, there's clear stories for clear groups, which work really well. But as an overarching group, besides like the mantras of like, we need clean water, we need functioning systems, those are so broad that I have a tendency that people don't really want to dig into them because they're so broad. I don't have an individual impact because the problem is so massive. So then even when we're talking in a sector, I'm like, oh, these are such good points. And I'm like, my head is spinning out right now. There's so many things and so many great things being done. How as a sector can we kind of pull these ideas together? And I think, Miley, I think you're doing a great job with your POO. And I think there's places like WEF and other places that are kind of pulling all of these thoughts together, whether that's in flusher engagement, whether that's in different technologies, whether that's in policy and regulation, because policy and regulation is huge to getting circular sanitation systems implemented. But like the thing is, like, these people who are, I would say, holding back systems from moving forward, they just want the best for the health of the people and the environment. So it's like everyone has these similar intentions, and their intentions then look like obstacles, and your intentions look like obstacles to them. So for me, sometimes I sit here in these beautiful groups and feeling so inspired, but then I'm like, okay, but wait, where are we going? What are we doing? And how are we getting there? And I think it's just something that I really like to like pull back into and try to move forward in that. Anyway, off my soapbox, but thank you.
That setting realistic intentions and expectations. No, and then chunking it for the masses, right? Like, how do you chunk this in a way that people can grab onto that and go, yes, I feel like that resonates with me. It's a lot of different messages and how to make them right. Yeah, no, it's tricky. It's tricky, but that's why we have all of you, because you are specialists to all your folks. Sally.
So it all comes down to the treatment plant, and a treatment plant is a municipally funded entity that is highly risk averse, that is very concerned about cost. And so on the one hand, if you educate the general public and take the fear away and get them to the point to say, I want a product. I want to save the world with a flush and also save my garden with a flush. That goes a big way into pressuring a municipality to get over a fear. But on the other hand, you also need pressure from above. So I've been putting together a new class on nutrients in wastewater, and all about global problems of excess nutrients. And we're not seen here as an integral part of the solution. And so much of the literature, we're seen as, there was just a thing in the New York Times about toxic sludge in Cape Cod because they're not in a centralized system. So we have the central treatment plant. How do you get them to be willing to adopt change? You need pressure from above and funding from above, and you need signs of acceptance from below. So it's a very complicated system requiring multiple messages on very different levels.
Oh, thanks, Sally. And you definitely are one of the trailblazers in getting the product out there to bring it to real levels. People get it. And the Tacoma Gardening Program is in large part, the success of that is due to Sally's integration and getting her students involved in that. So yeah, no. So let's go on to the last question, and then we'll get into the poop jokes or the toilet jokes, depending upon which one you want to go to. What notable shifts have you all seen in normalizing the poo conversation? What have you guys seen happening? Like, what are the hopeful things that you're seeing that are happening to kind of help normalize the conversation and broaden awareness around this? Lena, your hand is up.
All right, so yes, I definitely see trends in normalizing these conversations. I kind of mentioned earlier, I definitely see it among the young people, the teenagers and the 20-year-olds who think, the poo is awesome, 10 years ago, adults would not wear backpacks and hats that had poo emojis on it, and now it's like the hottest thing ever. I think all this general conversation is of how poo is part of the global ecosystem is sort of helping. The other interesting thing I noticed, which is so I got invited to talk about this concept at I'm gonna butcher the name in Spanish because I have no idea how to say it properly. Congreso Futuro in Chile. It's an annual thing that, you know, still before the pandemic, used to happen every single year, and they would invite scholars and journalists who were sort of like this forward, future thinkers. And I was totally shocked when they invited me. I'm actually leaving this coming Friday. And they want me, when you talk there, you talk not only to the whole country of Chile, it is streamed to the rest of the Latin American countries and the world in both Spanish and English. And when I realized the reach of that Congress, I was totally shocked. I would have never imagined that I would be invited to talk about poo at something that global. So to me, it's now sort of like maybe hopefully the beginning of a systemic shift in how we look at our dark matter. I don't think even 5 years ago something like this would be broadcasted so massively. So that's what I see.
That's great. You'll keep us posted. I'm sure if you're on, we'll look at your LinkedIn to see all the exciting developments happening. That's great. Austin.
Well, I think looking back at the shifts that I think I'm seeing, I think there is definitely a shift, especially in utilities, or at least it seems like to me, of this real openness and desire to be, to have SHAEs on their team that are totally dedicated to public outreach. I think it seems like that's trending the right direction. And like, WEF too is another example of that, of have the work that you're doing and like investing in this outreach piece versus just sitting here and talking to just ourselves all day, which we can do. I think we're getting better. I think we still have a long ways ahead of us, but I think we're getting better at, like, as a sector group, starting to reach out more.
Yeah, definitely. It's been, there's definitely growing pains, and all of you that were involved with Europe who know all about that. But yeah, it's even internally, it's not always normalized, and how to make that. And I love that Rick jumped on, and that we also had Cody, another wastewater expert, jump on and do a Friday Flush, because you guys are, I mean, that's where it's going. You guys are the creators, the curators, I think that Cody said. So yeah, no, that's wonderful. Let's see who's next. We got Shay and then Kim.
I think I was going to kind of echo what Austin said. So what she said, but yes, that is definitely a trend. I could say that here in Florida, I know a lot of utilities had outreach or education programs. And then when we had the recession, a lot of them kind of went under, or those roles were kind of tucked into another role. You might have somebody who is a pre-treatment coordinator and outreach. So some of those are kind of, now that we're coming out of that recession, who knows what's going on next. But I see, like, especially here in Florida, a lot of those kinds of roles being created. Here in Florida, water reuse is a big topic. We're going back to direct potable reuse, and that's a very controversial subject. Mm-hmm. But for some of these utilities that are very innovative, and they're like, no, we've got the infrastructure, we're doing this. They're already like kind of going into phase 2, which is how do we educate, how do we communicate to the public that what we're doing is safe and it's necessary. So I do, especially in Florida, see a lot of this like coming, which is exciting, because I'm like, yeah, I don't want to clone myself. Who would want to do that? That would be horrible. But there are all these programs. And then as kind of, saying some of the cool things about professional societies like WEF, we have committees, like we have the Public Communication and Outreach Committee. And those are made up of people who work in this sector, who do the communications, who do the marketing, who do the education. And I think really as a committee and as professional organizations, we have to do a better job of sharing each other's successes, because like as a utility, I know some of my local utilities are like, we're terrified of having tours, kids falling in tanks. That's scary. No. But if we can show them that we've done it and we've done it successfully, then if we get awards and we get all this, like now we're on TV and they're like, oh, you're on PBS and oh, I want that too. If we can share those successes with one another, and that's what one of the things that we are trying to do is the committee is try to share those successes so that others will kind of go, okay, we can do this. Or if we can't do the full tour, maybe we can do some baby steps. Maybe we can make a coloring book, a pamphlet, like do something. Like don't do nothing. That's double negative. Do something. So I think there is kind of this exactly what you said, Austin, like utilities are starting to get on board and they're like, hey, it's do or die for us. We have to do something or someone else is going to tell our story and it's going to be the news and it's going to be bad. So we really don't have a choice. But I do see a lot of this happening, not just in Florida, nationally. And that's pretty exciting, actually. It's a pretty exciting time to be alive in that sense.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Well said. Super well said. And why not get more out there about the story? Because it sucks when people tell your story. So you don't know my story. You don't know ours. Like we know it. Why are we not saying this? Totally true. Totally spot on. Kim.
Yeah, I mean, yes and yes and yes. Agree with Austin and Shay. I think also I'm starting to see the water world starting to look at poo more, which is interesting. Like there's also this interesting movement in the world of like water communications to have more support. You know, that's kind of the historically underappreciated role. And I just moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and I can see that the conversation here is much louder, but also communicators are asking questions about how do we do better? And I think that's something that's also happening. People saying, how do we communicate better? But also, like, I tend to be the only toilet person in the room when I go to these things, the water things, and the water people come and ask me questions now. And even beside that, I mean, I'm also just feeling like there's a little bit of a zeitgeist happening where people are open to it. I mean, I just wrote a blog post about prison toilets in the US, and I found a guy who's like a Instagram famous, and I messaged him like, hey, can I talk to you about toilets? And he was like, this is the best thing of my week. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Where like his whole world is about talking about inmate life. But now he's like, yeah, I am totally happy for you to use all of my sound bites. He like just approved it today. And I think that's something that's happening more. People going, oh my God, like I could actually talk about this like I did when I was a kid, but I wasn't allowed to. And I think that's something that's like it is, you know, Austin and Shay, you've also said this, and Lena too, like there is kind of this growing change with the millennials coming up, and we're all like here to talk about things that we couldn't talk about with our boomer parents. And now it's like all of a sudden really cool to talk about. But I think it's also people are getting excited to find pockets of information that are a little more out of balance. I mean, there's an entire, you know, famous company called Atlas Obscura that I talk about a lot. That's like their entire purpose is unearthing things that people normally don't talk about. And millennials love that shit. And I'm all about it. And I'm like, you know, what's also an Atlas Obscura is the Poo Obscura. And people are like, yes, tell me more. And I think that is definitely a trend that is happening, but I also think it's partly because we as professionals in communications are also asking how to make these things happen a little more as well. That was me trying to tie it all together. Okay, I'm done now.
It was beautifully done. It was beautifully done. I could see the carpet and everything. It was just, you know, and I noticed I'm looking at the hands, but also the chat. And yes, sewer divers. Rick, have you seen sewer divers?
I have not. I was just looking at the chat going, well, that sounds like something I'd love to watch.
So yeah, just Google it, because there is like a little like snippet. I don't get, like Shay, you're saying today too, you don't have cable. So I don't know how you can get it, if you can stream it. But we should definitely, and this is, my gears are already moving in this direction for 2023, some of the formal campaigns that we're talking about could definitely align with the Discovery Channel angle on this. So we will be reaching out to them to see if we can't hop on that train. Yeah, and let's see.
Have you ever seen How America Works with Mike Rowe?
Yeah.
So he did one with us. So
he did, right?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Do you have the link to that? Can you send that to me? Or like, is there like
find it? Yeah.
Okay, that would be awesome to put out there and just say, by the way, this was happening too. Another cool thing. Okay, we got Sean and then Kelsey, and then we'll wrap up.
Oh gosh, there's so much good stuff that's been said. So I feel like this is just more buttercream icing. But in terms of where the evidence is, I mean, I started the Poop Project in 2010, and at that time, I mean, I think the landscape was so different, and I feel like the pressure is coming a little bit from the top and from the bottom, and there's some of that middle, like what I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was, but was describing about, you know, awareness at the NEF, at the WEFs, at the NACWAs, at the from the government level, that we have to do something differently. But what I'm hearing is a lot of people at the top saying, like, we recognize this now. We're waiting for this to filter down to some of our engineers across the country. But I think the pressure is on and is coming, and some of that, just to articulate what I think has already been said, but to name it specifically, like in the environmental necessity, as places get drier, are we going to do wastewater reclamation? Is not a question. It's like, how do we sell it? Because we're going to have to do it. As sea levels rise, we have to change the location of wastewater treatment plants or deal with them. So are we doing that? Are we going to decentralized sewage? Like, what are we going to do? It's no longer Band-Aid it till we can address it later. We're getting to the point of like, the Band-Aids must be really addressed as a full healing. I think also capitalism has helped. You know, Squatty Potty did a lot through a lot of aggressive advertising to open up this conversation, and Tushy, Poopery, those companies, through wanting to sell a product that made people's bathroom experience better, both improved people's bathroom experience and helped them understand that maybe there was something lacking, that more could even improve about their bathroom experience, but they also really changed the culture through, again, aggressive advertising dollars that put in your face something that you might not want to talk about. And again, saw those pressures of like, I think sometimes these conversations are most effective with the people who already want to have them. Because if you don't want to have it, if you think this is a gross thing and you don't want to talk about it, it's really hard to convince someone to come to the table. You can normally by going at it from like a health issue that they do care about, or a poverty issue they do care about, or something else. But in my experience, the best people to get on board are the people who might already be on board, and just get them further into it. I would also name the rise of van life in the last couple of years, which I think Kelsey's talked a bit about in her work. Has, you know, there's all these people who from necessity need to find a way to deal with their shit they didn't have before. So that spurred a whole lot of work through the market. And then I think some of the evidence of this, we've already talked about the emoji, but poo toys and toilet toys are some of the hottest things for the last, I think, 2-3 years now. So this is just showing us that, like, not only are kids excited and interested, as they probably always have been, but parents are saying, okay, I'll take that thing into my house, you know, and allow you to do that. Also, just to name the climate that has helped to produce, you know, Lena's book came out, Chelsea Wald's book, Pipe Dreams, right before that, Bryn Nelson's Flush this past year, my book, Know Your Shit. So that, you know, is both in response to a cultural moment that says, yeah, like, and publishers who think we can sell books, but it's also responding to a community that they can sell books to that is accepting them. So I think we're in a good time because we're climbing up the bell curve a little bit.
Very, very well said, Sean. Yeah, good reflections. Yeah, Kelsey.
I think Sean summed up most of what I was going to say. So if for time we want to keep going, we can keep going. I think he nailed it.
If you have a thought bubble, please send it out there. That's totally fine. And then we'll go to the jokes, because that's all that's left after this.
Yeah, my only thought was, and it's just layering onto Sean too, is like what we're seeing a lot of at Point of Shift here is both of the technology demand. So I think technology and circular sanitation is getting very market specific. I think we're seeing companies like, I think Sean, you mentioned earlier too, iThrone. So providing toilets for specific needs, as well as treatment technologies for specific needs. I think in the US right now, like residential septic treatment, ATUs have always been kind of around for the last 10 years, but there's some really interesting technologies like Leapfrog Design that are looking at how do we treat septic in a way that's more circular and remove some of the waste that's going to wastewater treatment facilities in the first place. And I think that's where some of the, Sean, like I love the language of like, let's skip the bandage and go straight to healing. I just think that's so beautiful to think about in terms of wastewater treatment plants. But I do think there are areas where Band-Aids are really helpful. And I think decreasing high strength waste, I think we've already seen that with breweries. and doing that in ways that make sense. For example, Miley also Wasted. Wasted is trying to remove high strength porta potty waste from entering wastewater treatment plants. So I think there's a lot of really cool things that show such a strong indication for the US sanitation market to have demand coming across the board from the regulators, from people below, people asking, I want to do something different than septic. Please, dear God, tell me there's something better than septic, as well as technologies being like, hey, we need to reach people. People want something different. We want to go off grid. We want to live in our van. We know that our waste is good for the planet. How can we directly use that on land that we live on? So I just think there's so many great indicators that like there's like the belly of the beast is being turned into so many different options to do better with our waste, which is really exciting.
I have to see your van life tour. We have to put that out there. Kelsey did a across the country van tour looking at different alternative toilet options, which is fast. I mean, who can say they've done that? Not many people.
There is, hopefully that will always continue. There is a map on my website, www.pointofshift.com, of some of the circular sanitation systems that exist in the US to again kind of bridge the gap of like, it's not just a Naturehead's toilet. You see when you hiked 10 hours covered in leaves, like these systems exist all over, which is cool too.
Very cool. Yeah.
When did you do that? When did you drive across America?
Yeah, I didn't make it all across. We made it like kind of halfway because also the West Coast is short of water always. So I have hard reservations leaving the East Coast with too much water to go to the West Coast. But I did that in the summer of 2021 and it was a lot of fun. I want to do another kind of journey coming up in 2023, but really cool.
That should definitely put this into the list, because when you're going to be doing that, we need to figure out a good system of sharing, like what you're doing, and so that we can all repost. We can actually make a serious event out of this, like a one of a kind event, that's happening in our special year of poo. Pioneering person Kelsey McQuillans bravely drives across America and stuff like that. We can actually make
I would love that.
So much fun with that. Yeah.
And Lena would know. She's the journalist here.
And then as long as we have all of you guys there, and then Sean doing a wonderful performance of some kind, Kim telling a great history of toilet class. Like this sounds like a great event. I would love this. I would love to talk more, Lena, too.
It's so almost like we have to like join forces and do something like this together. Maybe even
Kim, what was the group that you brought up? Atlas?
Is that Atlas Obscura? Atlas Obscura.
Do they have a conference or something?
No, they do events. So they do a lot of public events. Their whole website, though, is like places around the world that are off the beaten track. Okay. And they have a couple toilet ones on there. I always try to submit a couple more, but I think they've got a large backlog. But they do other events too, about interesting places. They've done some like interesting taboo topics like cemeteries and whatnot. So I'm always trying to find out who do I have to talk to get in touch with Atlas Obscura to convince them that they need to talk about toilets.
Very cool. I think that's totally like spot on, like what Lena's saying. It's like a different story that people don't really think about that could really get some airtime. I love that.
I've actually written for Atlas Obscura a few stories, but it never occurred to me to pitch him a story about toilets. Something to think about.
Maybe we should talk.
Yeah.
On your plane trip down to Chile, you can start turning the wheels. Okay, we're gonna close this out with any poo jokes that you have. And I have a few to get them started, but I do not want to. If you guys have favorites,
you start.
So okay, these are really corny. But there are actually corny. There's corny ones too. Specifically,
I think corny. Saying this poo joke is corny is already a joke.
I know, right? Yeah. There's so many of them. Okay, knock knock.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Who's there?
I did up.
I did a poo.
Good for you. Okay. Who's next? Anyone? I'll keep going. I have a few more here. I have ammunition. This one I made up. This one I made up today just for all of you, especially the Ricks and the Shays who are at the plant. A turd and a wipe walk into the hottest underground club called, if anybody's an SNL person, Stefan, the Bar Screen. Okay, the turd made it through, but the wipe got stuck in the screening process. It's so corny, I know.
I don't know if
That's
most
good.
people will know
good.
why that's funny to us, but we can appreciate that.
This is an insider joke.
Yeah,
Maybe.
definitely an inside joke.
That's maybe an inside joke, but that's okay. Any others? What is something you never appreciate until it's gone? Toilet paper.
Oh,
That's your
Are-
memory from 2020.
It's a PTSD memory. Where
I
do
was scared
Kate-
that was a joke about incontinence. The answer was like sphincter control.
No. You could go that direction
A
though.
little dark.
Okay, I'll have one last one, but anybody else is free to chime in. Where do cave folk poop? In a Neanderthal. Oh, okay. I'm done. That's
Ooh.
all. I'm not going to be stand-up comedian. I do not have this pizzazz that Sean has.
No, you're doing good. I think you should keep going.
I think there needs to be a page for this group that's like dad jokes, and it's just like a lot of dad poo jokes. I feel like these are ripe.
Mhm.
We are full of them, right?
Mhm.
Literally, we are full of
Lots.
them.
I've been using this one for a while. I think I learned it from a kid's joke book when I was a child. And the joke is, what's long, brown, and sticky? A stick.
There you go.
I like that because it comes around.
You're not
sets up
thinking it.
expectations and
Yeah.
breaks them. Yeah.
I love it. That's very unexpected right there. Well, thank you guys for, bringing in the new year with some fun poo talk today. This will go up on our YouTube channel. We'll have it up as soon as we get it. Oh, there's a pupper. Hi, you poo too, buddy.
She
Yeah.
actually is asking to go outside,
Okay,
so I'm
then
gonna
that's
bounce.
cute.
Bye, everyone.
Well, thank you guys so much, and we will be in touch. And again, if you have any fun fecal facts or flushers that you want, I have some names here of ideas, but please send them my way. It's great to see you all.
Good to
Okay.
see you,
Good.
Mylene.
Thanks,
Everybody.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.